And there you go. We're live. What's up, friends? Welcome back to Culture Binge, the Wisecrack podcast, where we spread our wings and fly through the cultural zeitgeist. I'm your host, Michael Burns. Actually, you know what? We're going to start and we're going to run this back. Anyone who's watching this live is going to see me do this right now. And that's fine because I'm comfortable with that. Hey, Helen, I forgot to listen to the right way to pronounce your last name so I don't fuck it up. Can you just say it real quick?
That's totally not cool. It's flourish. So it's
See, I knew that. That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say it. Great. I'm going to start from the top. Anyone who's already watching this is like inside stuff. You've seen behind the curtain. So we're going to start again from the top. And anyone who just listens to this or watches it later is just going to see it from in a second. So Helen Flourish is now going to be properly introduced. Great. What's up, friends? Welcome back to Culture Binge, the Wisecrack podcast, where we spread our wings and fly through the cultural zeitgeist. I'm your host, Michael Burns, joined as always by the woman who refuses to come on this podcast unless I take and fail a drug test twice a month, Serby, and our special guest, someone who has repeatedly told me that I won't get the music she likes because I was born in the 80s, Helen Flourish. How are y'all doing today?
Doing all right. How you doing?
Doing very well. Wait, chat is saying there's a lot of echo.
Oh, is
Wow.
there? Let's
We're really
see.
crushing. Today's going well. I wonder where the echo is coming from.
I just changed a monitoring setting. It might have been me. Does that change anything for you guys in the chat?
Chat, we want to help you. Chat, we want you to be happy.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone in the chat to be sad. I don't think there's anything we're doing on our end that would create echo. I don't think we're looping the audio back through things. Serby is not in a cavern. She's in her normal office space with her books behind her. Chat, let us know if it's still hella echoey, and we will continue going. I think, let's see. They said, hey, I'm listening to the pod. I think I can hear someone typing. Okay. Maddie, I wonder, because I'm not typing.
No, I'm not either.
I'm not typing either.
If you're live, thank you for being here as we work this out. We're going to make it worth your while. We have a very good episode coming today. Just the amount we're going to give you is incredible. So you're not going to be sad. Is this only Culture Binge 56? I feel like we've done more than that. Okay, it's fixed, everyone. It's fixed. Yay. Should we start all the way from the top, Maddie? Should we run it back again? Or run it back from the top? Okay, so if you are here live, you're going to see a third version of a full intro. And what you're going to see right now is me try to capture an organic authenticity. And you can evaluate in the chat if this just sounds like reproduced nonsense or real organic podcasting. So is everyone ready? Helen,
yeah.
Serby, we feeling good?
Yeah.
Great. Let's run it
Good.
back. Third time's a charm. Oh, I just heard myself. That was weird. Okay. What's up, friends? Welcome back to Culture Binge, the Wisecrack podcast, where we spread our wings and fly through the cultural zeitgeist. I'm your host, Michael Burns, joined as always by a woman who refuses to come on this podcast unless I take and fail a drug test twice a month, Serby, and our special guest, someone who's repeatedly told me that I won't get the music she likes because I was born in the 80s, Helen Flourish. Helen and Serby, how are we today?
Doing very well.
It was exciting to just organically do that introduction without any preparation. It felt good. We have a lot to talk about today, including the Olympic Committee being an insufferable group of narcs, growing generational divides showing up on TikTok, and we got a special segment with our friend Alec. You might be wondering, where's Alec? He'll be here in a second, so just hold on. That'll be our third segment today. But first, we want to say a special hello to Helen Flourish. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I am just honored to be in the presence of, cultural icons here. So
yeah. Well, people probably know Helen if you regularly consume Wisecrack videos. If you, for some reason, and this is cool too, prefer podcast and do not like to watch our videos, you might not be as familiar with Helen. So Helen, how long have you been doing stuff in the Wisecrack extended universe?
Oh man, I think it's been 3 years actually. So I started out back a few years ago with writing some videos rather on kind of the intersection between science and pop culture. From there, I started hosting, and now that's mostly what I do. Although I'd really like to get back into writing again, so maybe we can make that happen sometime.
I know some people.
Just saying.
I know a bunch of people. I know I'm one of the people. And where does the science come from? I think of you, Helen, as a science person without really or what your background is, but I just always think that if there's a science question I could ask you, and whatever you say will be canonically true. So where does the science come from?
Yeah, I'll do my best to make up answers to any questions that you have. I am so basically I studied neuroscience in college. At that time, I was trying to figure out if I wanted to go to med school or not, big pressing questions. But I was really interested in neuroscience and media and the way that, media affects the brain, the way that, the things we think ultimately affect the kind of media that we create. And I was kind of trying to decide if I wanted to go down the academic route like you did, Burns, or if I wanted to go down the practical route and see if I could, maybe create content with some of these ideas that I had. And I chose the latter after going to way too much school and accumulating too much student debt like a good millennial. So, so I've got, taken one for the generation. But yeah, so that's my background. And so I actually went to journalism school at USC. And that's from there I got involved with Wisecrack a couple years after graduating. So here we are now.
Oh, nice.
A real scientist and a real journalist on the show. This is intimidating.
Like up-leveling us so much.
I know. I feel intimidated.
I don't think so, actually. I feel like I'm just kind of like a faux version of both of those things, like the knockoff version of them. But I think it adds to my brand,
That's how I know you're a millennial, because you have imposter syndrome. That's and we'll talk about generational stuff later, but I don't,
and you talked about your brand. Such a millennial.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because like a Gen Z person would never think they have a brand, or sorry, a Gen X person, and a Gen Z person would not even get that there's a split between their brand and themselves. But a millennial still has the sense or the ability to think that they have a self and they are a brand. But we'll talk about this more later, because we're getting to generational divides. But Helen, we're so glad you're here today. Say hi in the chat. But now we're going to get into a segment that, I'm going to be honest, we're thinking of maybe killing. So let us know in the chat or in emails if you like this segment or not. I'm just curious. We're not definitely going to kill it. I'm just curious about how we feel about slaps and chaps, the time where we talk about stuff we're really excited about and stuff that we kind of don't like. So, Serby, let's start with you. What are your slaps and chaps this week?
Everything chaps this week. There's a lot of change, and I'm not great with change. I'm very change averse, so it's very difficult for me to handle that. So I'm trying to stay calm and just try to be a duck, let the water just roll off my back. Okay. And the one thing that really slaps so hard is that Helen's here. I have loved watching her on the main channel. And Jared has always said you're lovely. I'm so excited to see you.
Oh, man. Thank you. I mean, can I go into my slaps and chaps? Because obviously a slap is that I'm here with you guys. And I feel like it's a natural. But I'm just going to jump into it, actually, unless Michael has any objection.
Helen, what are your slaps and chaps?
There we go. Got to do the intro. Yeah, so slaps are obviously that I'm doing this podcast. Again, thank you guys so much for having me. And Serby, seriously, same. Fangirling so hard. You just are awesome, seriously, on the podcast. And
is it because I talked about penis cookies last time?
Yes, it was the penis. So I was living in San Francisco, up until a couple months ago, and I'm like, oh, how did I miss the penis cookie bake?
I know. And they have vag cookies. Oh my gosh, I'm so
Question: excited. Aren't the penis cookies and vag cookies discussed in a segment that's airing at the end of this episode?
No, we did it last time, and then we did a part 2 for the segment.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just am constantly thinking about penis and vagina cookies, so I assume they're just everywhere all the time. My bad.
But we weren't off air when we were talking about.
Sorry about that. Now everyone knows we're just constantly talking about genital confectionaries, so that's my bad.
I mean, it was and it was inspiring. Like I'm gonna have to go find those cookies. But yeah, thank you again. And then some other things that slap. So I recently went back to Tennessee where I grew up and hung out with my family for the first time in a long time. It's weird. There's still that like you guys know that awkward kind of I'm coming back out into the world phase that we're all going through because of the pandemic. Yeah, it's actually real with family too. I'm like I can't figure out like do I hug you still? I think we came from the same womb, but I don't know how you feel about hugs anymore. But no, I think yeah, so hung out with them in Tennessee. That was great. And got my mom to the Great British Bake Off. So that was awesome. I watched a documentary that I highly recommend. I'm sure some people who are watching this podcast have seen it, and maybe you guys have too. This 2004 documentary called Baraka, directed by Ron Frick, written by Constantine and Genevieve Nicholas. So what it is basically it's just kind of explores visually humanity, right? And there's no narration whatsoever. There's just a lot of really music, and it just kind of just takes you visually with some really outstanding cinematography. They actually built a custom camera to film this documentary, and highly recommend it. Won't go into too many more details, but yeah, it's awesome. Check out Baraka. And as for chaps,
what do you hate? What makes you mad? What sucks right now?
The Delta variant. The Delta variant it's chapping my ass. Is it chapping you guys?
As the science correspondent, should we be how should we feel about it? Because I'll be honest, and this is a bit of a digression, but I think it's important. Mm-hmm. I go from some days being like, oh, the Delta, but then other days I'll see people I follow on social media who are like science people be like, hey, dummies, here's a graph that shows you that no one is dying and there might be an uptick in hospitalizations, but it's largely amongst unvaccinated people. Mm-hmm. So it's really not that big of a deal. And this is becoming endemic anyways. So chill out. So can you just tell us and all of our listeners how we should feel so we don't have to think for ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. We have different science spheres. Mine is a lot more alarmist, I think, mm-hmm. which is actually, I think, a consequence of me being a hypochondriac in general. I feel like the algorithm knows that, right? So it's going to feed me alarmist things. But anyway, I'm obviously not a virologist and I'm not actually a scientist, I feel. So, but for me personally, what's scary about it to me is that, we're all taking guidance based on the information that's out there. And a lot of the guidance, these numbers that we get say that the vaccines are 94% effective against the Delta variant. These are, this information comes out of a phase in the pandemic where people are still, at home mostly, right? So that's, once we get the information from what it's like when everything opens up and people are out in the real world, to me, that's more valid as far as knowing, say like whether or not, how effective are the vaccines really? How afraid should we be? I personally am going to keep wearing my mask indoors, especially after the day I came out from Israel, not in my comfort of my own home, but, in public spaces. But just because, like I said, I'm a hypochondriac and the numbers make me nervous. So, I may never not wear a mask.
Yeah. I have to fly later this month, and I don't feel comfortable now. I don't feel comfortable going on the plane. I don't feel comfortable being at a large family event indoors. Like, it makes me very, very uncomfortable, the idea of everybody flying and being in the same place. Even though like I'm vaccinated, I know majority of my family's vaccinated. The whole thing just totally freaks me out. And even if I don't die or get hospitalized, like, what if there are long-term effects from it? That's what freaks me out too.
Wow. So that's the podcast. We're all going to put masks on and just stop now and go into bunkers. So we'll see you soon. No, but thanks for sharing that. I'm freaked. I'm a little freaked now. I'm a little freaked about that. But part of me just thinks with all this, and I promise we'll segue out of this because we got topics to talk about. But yeah, part of me is a little just annoyed we never just kept normalized wearing masks indoors because it's kind of easy. So it's just sort of like with everything happening and like getting back to normal, it's like we could just do that and make that a normal thing that we do for a little bit. I guess on the flip side, it's like, when does it end? But I don't know. It just seems not that hard, especially if you have like fun masks. Like, order ones that have patterns you like and make you excited. Then it's fun to wear them.
I still want that Kate Middleton floral mask.
Everyone, find it, send it to Serby. We'll talk about it at the end. We'll tell you where to find her. We need to get Serby that mask. Hashtag get Serby that mask. So real quick, I'll do my slaps and chaps, and then we'll head into things. Slaps. If you listen to this podcast, you know that I like live music and events. Going to my first live concert between now and the next Culture Binge. It's in an outdoor venue in a pretty place and not so big. So I think it'll be a good, like, getting my toes back into that water. But I'm excited. I'm hoping that I'm, like, positively overwhelmed by the existence of live music again. So that's great. My chap, I guess, will relate to what we're talking about. Now, or going to see family, kind of like, Helen just did. Serby's talking about this. I just don't want to get on a goddamn plane. It doesn't sound fun. Airports don't sound fun. Sadly, I live far enough away from all of my family where driving's not really an option because it would take days and days because they live on the other side of the country. So I'm just kind of not excited about that. And it seems like it's going to be a busy travel season. And I just imagine sitting on a plane near a bunch of strangers and freaks, and it makes me feel bad. So that's mine. And I will second my chaps with our bud Dude Abides. His chaps is that his car is pretty much out of commission due to needing a part for repairs, which take weeks to month. That sucks. Dude Abides. Cars suck. I hate cars. They make me mad. I'm sorry that your car is broken. Let's invent cars that don't break. Scientists do it. Okay. Now, before we actually get into our topics this week, just a reminder, like, subscribe, review, rate, all those sorts of things. We love it. We appreciate it. Please do it. And as always, if you're going to review the podcast, feel free to do something fun with it. Tell us what we would all be in a certain categorization of things. And Helen's here this week, so feel free to do that with Helen, and we'll get into some of those later. But now that we're here, ready to get started, we've taken the long way around, but now we're going to get into it. Serby, I'm excited to hear what you think about this topic. It's a topic that makes me very mad. I was ranting about this topic while walking down the street last night. So if you were near me in Los Angeles last night, you could have heard me yelling about this. What's going on with Sha'Carri Richardson, an amazing U.S. track and field athlete, and her lack of inclusion on the Olympic team?
Okay, so Sha'Carri Richardson is an American sprinter who blazed through the women's 100-meter trial to make the team for the Tokyo Olympics. So just as an aside, I love the Olympics, and so I take the whole time off usually for work, and just sit and watch it all day long. Anyway, so after the race, Sha'Carri and all the other competitors, they took a routine drug check, and officials found that she had marijuana in her system, which is a banned substance. So you, like many other people, might be wondering why Sha'Carri would have used a banned substance so close to the Olympic Games. Well, last month, while she was competing in Oregon, which is a state with legal recreational use, where marijuana is legal for recreational use, she was competing at the U.S. trials, and a reporter told her that her biological mother had died. And she wasn't expecting this. She was completely blindsided by the news. And this was just a couple days, I think, before the trials were supposed to start. So she smoked marijuana to cope with this loss. And as a result of this positive test, she received a 30-day suspension, and her victory from the 100-meter sprint was disqualified. And her last hope of competing in the Olympics was to make the team for the 4x100 relay. And the reason why she would be able to join this race is that the relay was scheduled after her 30-day suspension would end. So she could have been named to the team. However, the coaches had already selected the members of the relay squad and had informed those runners before the test result became public. And then they decided it would be unfair to take a slot away from one of those runners and give it to Sha'Carri because it would be the only way for her to get onto the team. So after this all happened, her suspension kicked off a debate about marijuana and sports. And many people said that marijuana is not a performance-enhancing drug. If anything, it is the opposite. It could make her slower. And other people said rules are rules. Others said that this is another example of systemic racism. And the U.S. track and field expressed sympathy to Sha'Carri, and they called for an investigation, a reevaluation of the anti-doping rules on marijuana use. So I'm very much in Burns's camp. I think that this situation is very distressing and ridiculous. But I want to pass it off to the two of you to talk a little bit more about it. What do you think about this situation? Do you think that marijuana should be on the list of banned substances alongside other performance-enhancing drugs that usually make athletes stronger, faster, or have more endurance, considering marijuana does none of those things?
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous that they would put marijuana consumption on the same playing field as like blood doping or steroids or things that have a physical effect of making your ability to process oxygen quicker or your muscles faster, whatever it might be. I think this just like is some 1950s, 1960s type bullshit that's been carried over. Obviously, there's like a super racist history of enforcing stuff like this. And everyone said this, but like it's just so silly. Every human being knows that smoking marijuana does not make you run faster. You could maybe say it's a performance enhancing drug if you're competing in a creative space and you're doing like expressionist paintings or working on improvisational music with your friends or starting a jam band. Sure, it might enhance that performance. But it's really ridiculous. And, like some other sports have gone through this, like the NBA recently, for the most part, I'm pretty sure they stopped testing for that. So like if you're an NBA player and you're in a state where that's legal, it doesn't matter because you're an adult and it's legal in the place that you're in. It just makes me so mad. And when people say rules are rules, it's this weird, I'm going to get a little meta here, like theological attitude where people have a thing built into their brains where like we need gods to tell us what to do and have these internal structures that tell us how to live. So our human like brain hears rules and we're like, the rules are good. I need the rules, forgetting that they're just created by a group of 10 largely assholes in a room someplace to enforce and like control the lives of others. So like the whole rules are rules discourse, I just hate so much. I'll stop ranting. Helen, what do you think about this one?
I mean, we're all on the same page here. Like this is, I think the decision to exclude, to exclude her from the Olympics is dumb. And I think Team USA is going to, regret it. I guess I just don't. So I appreciate, Survey, that you pointed out like why this happened, because I could not, or, I couldn't find this morning anything that was really clear as far as like why they decided that, even though the 30-day ban was over, that they weren't going to let her back, onto the relay team. And you said it was because they had already informed the people who were going to be on the team that they had been, and they didn't want to revoke those positions.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like fair, right? Do we feel that that's reasonable?
To me, that's fair. That's the only reasonable explanation that I could really think of. But I'm curious. I'm curious as to like I was kind of pondering, why this might be the case. But it sounds like there's the explanation. I was wondering if it might have something to do with, they mentioned credibility, as far as saying, hey, we can't make an exception for this person and that kind of thing, which doesn't fly with me because I think there's there's this great 2017 piece from Vox that talks about how doping is in all of these gray area ways is super common among professional athletes and these who are at that elite level, because the difference in winning and losing is by seconds, right? So you have to enhance your performance so much that you have to go to these superhuman means to do it. So for them to be disqualifying her on the basis of, after her ban is over, on the basis of a drug that we have absolutely no research whatsoever that says, well, okay, I think there was like one paper that some physician mentioned that said maybe marijuana could enhance your ability to, to take part in a sport like sprinting. I can't even remember what the paper was, but the evidence was just shockingly weak for something like this. And so it's just ridiculous. Common sense tells you, it's a sedative. You're not going to run faster because you smoke weed. I never have. And so I don't, I like what? So I think that's, it seems super silly, but I mean, I think maybe hopefully what'll come out of this is that we reevaluate the rules and we look at, the way also I think that something else I think is super important here is, and just is mind blowing to me, is that why was this reporter the one breaking the news to her that her mother had died? Like,
yeah, that was really hard to hear. And that's what happened. And I can imagine that she knows that it's a banned substance. It's not a shock. But when you are in that frame of mind and somebody tells you that when you're not expecting it all, you're going to make decisions that you wouldn't normally make. And she's been very apologetic in saying that she's made a mistake. But holy shit, what's wrong with that reporter?
Yeah. Everything, all the elements about this and the dominoes that fell are so weird. And it is just like so annoying too, that if someone found out tragic news and we knew that they had to take like a Xanax or a Klonopin or something like that to alleviate anxiety or something, or temporarily be on some sort of antidepressant, we would say, well, of course, those are substances that have been medically proven to help alleviate those things. Well, in the exact same way, cannabis has been proven to alleviate anxiety in some people and to help calm nerves and dealing with all types of mental health things, which is why it is like a legal substance in many places and used for many positive purposes. So it seems like another example. And I'll say, this is apt to say as we have our science friend here, another example where society and legislative bodies that have an influence in society continue to ignore scientific fact and research for the sake of enforcing ideologies from a bygone era that largely, affect people from certain communities. I just can't think of a good reason they do this.
I agree. And this argument that these are the rules and rules are rules. There was also a time in our history when rules would say that some humans were not as valuable as others. Like when you could go kill people. Like, I don't understand this whole like rules are rules. You could change the rules. Just because something's written doesn't mean that it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I have a question for both of you. How has this affected the way you feel about the Olympics in general? Because I would be lying if I didn't say it's because I'm like you, Serby. I love the Olympics. I've taken time off work to watch them before. This is making me not excited and kind of bummed about the whole enterprise. How are y'all feeling?
I agree. I have felt for a while that I'm uncomfortable with a lot of the decisions made by the Olympic Committee. I know that it's super corrupt. I hate the way they, host cities deal with a lot of the economic fallout as a result of hosting the Olympics. I think there are a lot of problems. And then now that it's like affecting the athletes as well, there was another runner too, I think that was disqualified last year or something because her testosterone levels were too high and they said that she was masculine or something like that. So like things like that really bother me. And it does take away from like that spirit and magic of the world coming together and being able to see people and compete in something that they love. I like that spirit of the Olympics. I wish that we could just focus more on that and not get bogged down so much in these arbitrary rules.
Definitely. Helen, are you at your home for the Olympics as you normally do 2 years, I guess?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not as I'm not as Olympics obsessed as the two of you are. It sounds
Probably
like,
good.
But I do really
healthy.
Appreciate them. No, but yeah, right, maybe. I don't know. But I appreciate them for what they are, especially as, I really like the idea of every, kind of coming together and everybody, around the world and all of us participating in this one thing that bonds us all is athletics in that sense. And I think that I was really stoked to see her perform. I mean, she's an incredible runner. So
good.
And to feel like, that it's kind of like, well, because of this dumb thing that really is comes off the back of these, antiquated rules that desperately need overhauling, that because she isn't going to compete because of this, it just feels like, yeah, it's a huge bummer. It's a huge loss. It's a huge loss for the U.S. team. And I think that's, just.
And this kind of puts another pox on an already very sketchy and weird seeming Olympics. John Oliver's show Last Week Tonight did a really good segment on the Olympics, I think last week or the week before. And I never knew until this point that, like, for example, right now Japan and the city of Tokyo don't have the authority to cancel the Olympics, even though things are really bad over there and like 10% of their population is vaccinated. They're currently in like a pretty elevated state of lockdown in the city, because when you sign a contract with the IOC, they have to be the ones who call it. And if Japan or the city of Tokyo decided that for their country it was a good thing to cancel it, they would have huge financial and legal liability. And yeah, just, if anyone wants to look into the history of the Olympics and what it does to a city, it's something you should never want in your city. There's, currently an activist group in LA called No Olympics that's actively fighting against the Olympics coming here in a little bit because of the devastation it normally causes to especially the most vulnerable people in any city. So sorry to bum anyone out. The Olympics might be bad. Even though they're fun, they might be bad. So I'm sure we'll have some more Olympic discussion as it gets closer, because sadly, it seems like this one's going to be a shit show.
Yeah, and I was so disappointed because when they selected Tokyo as the host city years ago, and then when we had like 5 years ago when they did like the preview at the closing ceremonies at the last Summer Olympics, I was like, this is going to be amazing. And now it just seems like it's horrible.
Yeah, not excited about that. But so something else that's going on in society that involves competition between people from different culture and backgrounds is generational clashes. We've already referenced it on this episode. And I saw some stuff going around on Twitter. I know Helen's done the research here. Some new stuff's been popping up on TikTok. Some memes and videos that some people might find charming, that other people have said make them want to like throw all their devices in a lake and move into a cave and never look at anything again. Popping off on TikTok. So Helen, tell us what's going on with the burgeoning generational war on TikTok and social media.
All right. So this has been going on for a while. Anybody who follows, I guess follows generational wars, but follows culture more largely, probably knows about the whole, middle versus side part fiasco, the fact that skinny jeans were canceled, all of these, kinds of ridiculous things that that came about because basically millennials saw that Gen Z was shit talking them on TikTok. They got mad and they decided to take to their favorite platform to spew their opinions, Twitter, to whine about it. But that's my personal take on it, if you can't tell. So since then, there have been a number of musicals, musicals that have come out of this conflict. And the latest one popped up a few days ago. It went viral on Twitter. TV writer Eli Wilson Pelton, who I think he writes for Insecure on HBO, High Fidelity on Hulu, a couple other shows. He posted a video of this, or this TikTok rather, with the caption, "This makes me physically ill." And I don't know if we can watch the clip. I did write a brief synopsis. Can we play the clip on here? I think we talked.
If I did not send it in, we are not playing the clip.
No worries.
We can post it to social media later today, and then we can make sure we'll do our Twitter handles at the end. So one or all of us can post this clip so people can see it. But I think people, if you want to find this, it's pretty easily searchable on Twitter.
Just look for "This makes me physically ill."
Yeah, yes. That'll get you to it. And I did write a really brief synopsis that I'm gonna read real quick. So pretty much this is an original TikTok micro musical by micro musical powerhouse Pixel Playhouse, which is a real company that is they do micro musicals on Twitch and on other places around social media. Personally, I think it's pretty dope, but that's just me. But this one seeks to illuminate the plight of zillennials, which is basically anyone who's born between the years 1994 and 2000, according to BuzzFeed.
I did not know this was a thing.
Yes, this is a thing. So, I mean, and this is BuzzFeed's definition, which I guess is kind of like the source of truth for these sorts of questions. So the plot effectively is that we have two panicked in-betweeners in the throes of an identity crisis are goaded by dueling choruses of Gen Zers and millennials to join their ranks as they sling generational jabs and one-up each other with their merits, which are, TikTok's dancing skills, DVDs, middle parts, crushing student loan debt, I think they reference there too, until one of our zillennial heroes brings them together with something everyone can agree on, which is The Office. So I think at the end, one of the middle, yeah. so in the end, one of them says, like asks, like Jim and Pam, and everybody's like, oh my God, I love The Office. So watch it. I was I don't know, what you guys what your opinion on TikTok musicals are, or whether or not this is a subgenre that you feel strongly about. But frankly, I was, a lot of people were talking about how this is just another sign of the end times, and I kind of thought it was rather nice. It's silly, the content itself is silly, but I like that people are making musicals. I love musicals. So but anyway, so in my opinion, on one hand, this is both kind of awesome, like I said, but and also extremely cringe, but really only because of the subject matter, like I said. And I think I kind of want to overthink this video for a second here, which is like,
please do.
Yeah. So from my perspective, this is kind of a microcosm for how intergenerational relationships are playing out on the internet as a whole. And they've gotten a lot of attention in the media for being, for the, like I said, the jabs that are slung back and forth, the fact that, millennials feel the need to defend themselves when Gen Z makes fun of their, obsession with Harry Potter or whatever, right? And, the fact that really it feels like most of the time the ones who are taking this most seriously are millennials. But what I think is so intriguing is that this is, with thanks to the dawn of the internet, right? Like, or thanks to the fact that everybody's online, we are largely occupying the same spaces with people from other generations in a way that we never have before. And that gives us an opportunity to, just like, lob insults at each other, right? But also, if you spend a lot of time on Reddit or Quora or, forums where there's a lot of anonymity, or either that or there's a lot of intermixing between generations, you find that really what that people are leveraging the fact that they can connect with strangers who are not from their generation to seek out advice, be it how do I decide whether or not I should have kids, or how do I say, for instance, decide what to do with my life, or whether or not this career path is good for me, in a way that wasn't really possible before, right? Like before, you had a certain small group of people who were not from your generation that you could interact with to ask questions about life. Now we have, billions of strangers all around the world who we can and, get advice from to figure out, how to really be able to, make good decisions, and how to just, think critically about, the paths, that lay in front of us. And maybe I'm just like looking for little bits of optimism and, in kind of the chaos that is the world. But I think that that's kind of nice. And so, yeah.
Well, can I ask a question to, I guess, both of you? And I love your general read on this, that musicals are fun. Maybe the topic of this one is silly. I have a sense of, do we think that like this cultural divide is been heightened precisely because there isn't a divide? And what I mean by that is like we all consume the same culture. We have a monoculture that exists on the internet, and everyone that exists on the internet sees, watches, reads so many of the same things that I know I don't feel weird. Like I have colleagues at Wisecrack, I won't say their names, who are definitely in that generation you describe. And I don't feel like I'm talking to different people. We like a lot of the same things. We have a lot of the same commonalities. And I worry that the desire for this divide is largely just produced by millennials who want to think that they're special. And as anyone who listens to this podcast regularly knows, I have class solidarity with Gen Z. And when the culture war comes, I will kill my own for their cause. Sign me up. I'm ready to go. But is this just like a made up thing by millennials who are too precious when in fact we consume a lot of the same things, kind of, which is, I think, pointed out by the Office thing? It's like, of course, because everyone watches the same stuff. But I don't know, Serby, what do you think in our increasing check-ins with the generational divide war?
I don't really see it as a war or that big of a difference, as you were saying. I mean, to me, it just sort of feels like millennials are reaching that like natural phase of life where you kind of get out of touch a little bit with what the cool thing is. Mm-hmm. But that's just natural. I mean, that just happens. It took me a while to figure out what TikTok was. Not a while, I mean, but I just didn't know about TikTok and was like, oh, what's this? So I just think it's like a natural change in like a life cycle. But I don't see it as like a war or anything weird. It's just.
Yeah. Why do y'all think people are precious about it then? Like, I'm wondering, and not to ask us to psychoanalyze people we don't know or a generational cross section, but I wonder, like, why? Because I think about this TikTok I saw a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago. It was really horrible, where this woman says something like, "Your generation has safe spaces. Mine had mosh pits. We are not the same." And it was like the dumbest thing ever. And everyone from like hardcore music culture pointed out that the whole point of a mosh pit is to provide like a safe space for a certain sort of activity. But it just made me think, like, why do you care? Like, why are you so mad? Why are you defending your like washed generation and not letting people like be who they are? But I don't know. Where do you all think that comes from? Why do people want to like have these fights?
I mean, they've always done. It's just they're just bitter. I think there's a lot of bitterness about the fact that you're no longer, the cool young thing that everybody's talking about, and the media reinforces that with the way that they portray aging, the way that they portray people as being out of touch. And we are, and there's the shame that comes with being out of touch. Like Serby said, there's like a natural decline in touchedness as you get older, because what we see as in touch is, that's youth culture, right? That is what it means to be in touch, is like, in with the youth, I guess. And so I think that's always played out. That's always been a thing, right? But thanks to the internet, to one of the the darker aspects of it is obviously it's a place where we can easily perpetuate rage, and where we can just kind of just mouth off about whatever it is that's bothering us. And if it's that the younger generation is making fun of my like love of doggos or whatever, like that's something that people want to that's ripe for frustration and venting, I guess. So I think it's an internet culture too.
I just wish everyone could like learn that it's okay to not be cool, and you get you're young for a bit, and then you get older, and my favorite people who are older are people that are just chill and don't think about this stuff and are happy where they are in life. Not that this is like advice corner to anyone, but it's just like, who cares? Like what you like. Don't be bitter or jealous. Be friends with people of all different ages. I mean, within reason and legality. But yeah, I don't know.
Who has time for that shit? Like, I don't I don't have time to be like annoyed and upset and shit about like stuff like that. Like, I have real problems that I need to be figuring out. Like the fact that I'm one person covering 8 roles at my company. Like, that is occupying my thoughts. Not like what's going on TikTok. I'd like to have that life where like I could just sit around and be enraged by the younger generations.
Yeah. Well, speaking of kind of stepping back from having a stressful life with 8 roles and lots to do and just wanting to chill and accept one's age, we have a special segment with Alec, who can't be here right now because he's traveling. But we pre-recorded something. We're talking with Alec about something going on in his life, and we're going to play that now. So we'll be back live after the segment. Hang out in the chat if you're here. But now Serby and I have a little chat with Alec about his generational gap in growth. Okay, guys, so we're doing a special segment today because the godfather of Culture Binge, the 4th meal of Wisecrack, I'm going to get up and use the bathroom and grab a snack, so I'll be right back. To make. So, Alec, take it away. The floor and the show is yours.
I'm leaving. I won't be on Culture Binge for the foreseeable future because I'm quitting my job to go hiking. That is not a joke. So won't be a part of Wisecrack, won't be on Culture Binge for the foreseeable future. And by that I just mean, after I'm done traveling, I'd love to maybe pop in now and then. I love you all. I love everyone's support, all your emails, your doofy names for us, what kind of, drugs we would be, that kind of stuff. It's been amazing, and I'd love to, not completely distance myself from that.
Okay, well, that said, thanks. This has been Culture Binge. We're done with Alec forever now. For Serby, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, Alec, first of all, I don't know how you're feeling about this derby. I know one thing I'm feeling for sure is I hope at some point in my life I get to say the sentence, I'm quitting my job to go hiking.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree.
That absolutely rules. So we're happy about that. We're sad that you're leaving. Question, did you all both start Culture Binge at the same time? Was one of you first?
It was... I don't... Serby, do you remember?
I think you and Jared did it the first episode together, and then I came in on the second episode.
Yeah, the original idea is like, let's try out some different people, whatever, and then we had Serby on. I was like, oh, she's great. We're gonna keep her on.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, Serby. So what was it like the first time you met Alec? 'Cause I imagine it was it on a Skype screen just like we are now?
Yeah, I've never met Alec in person. It was just on Skype during that episode. In fact, I had known Jared before because we've met in person, and then we did Thug Notes together. But this was my first time chatting with Alec, and I was like, oh, he's so nice. How come I haven't met him before? Because I'd been working with Wisecrack for a few years previously. But yeah, he was just so nice and very easy to talk to. Felt very natural to talk to him.
The funny thing with meeting Alec in person is he's just taller than you think he's going to be.
Yeah.
For anyone who is a regular listener or watcher, and this is a weird thing to say, I think sometimes people have an energy related to height. And I don't want to say Alec has like short energy, and I'm not saying short energy is bad. It's not. I think Alec has like an energy of an affable, slightly above average height person, but then you meet him and he has the height of a small but functional NBA point guard.
Yeah.
So, we'd say he's probably about the same height as Damian Lillard for any Portland Trailblazers fans out there.
Don't know who that is, but yeah.
He's a very good basketball player, because I remember the first time I met Alec in person, I'm just thinking like, oh, he's just tall. And then I was like intimidated because I was like, I wanted to be the tall one. So.
I don't remember how tall are you. In my mind, you're short.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, you think I'm short, and I'm a solid 6. So I think you got what, 2 inches on me?
4.
4 inches, man. See, I still think he's short for that. So he's a tall man. We're gonna miss him a lot. Let me ask you this, Alec. How long have you worked at Wisecrack, including times that you were doing any freelance or contributing stuff?
Oh God, 5 years, I want to say.
Wow. Is this the longest you ever worked at one job?
Yeah, my other job I worked for 2 years and then quit to work at Wisecrack. Interestingly enough, I was like, hey, I'm quitting my job. Jacob, do you want to hire me? And he said, yes, but let me see if I can do that.
So everyone follow Alex's advice.
Longer than 5 years?
I feel like it was 2016.
I think it was sooner than that, because I started working with Wisecrack in 2014, I think.
I'm gonna go on my fucking nobody friend me on LinkedIn, I swear to God.
Everyone find Alec on LinkedIn, expand the network, send him a really long message. LinkedIn's great.
It's the only way that I know how long I've worked at places.
All right, well, while Alec is looking that up,
June 2015, so 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Serby, have you ever worked any place for 6 years?
Wisecrack. I mean, I haven't worked here full time, but it's the longest place.
Yeah, I've never worked any place for 6 full years. I've never had the level of commitment and attachment that Alec does to Wisecrack. Alec, is Wisecrack your longest relationship, or is your romantic relationship?
My romantic relationship predates Wisecrack, so I've been in that longer.
Okay, so there's one thing.
So Wisecrack is my second longest romantic relationship now.
Well, how about this? In 6 years, and listen, we're not going to get corny right here. You're leaving. It's a job. You're quitting your job to go hiking. We're happy for you. However, got to ask you some questions. What do you think is the thing, when you look back on your time at Wisecrack, on the podcast, on the videos, on the meetings with corporate sponsors, all these things, what's the thing you're proudest of that you're going to look back on and be like, I feel good that I did this thing, that I wrote this thing, that I contributed to this thing? Is there one or a few examples you can think of in that realm?
Yeah, I think it's probably specific videos. The one I always go to, it's just muscle memory, is, I didn't write this, but Deeper Dumb Nick Cage is like one of the best episodes we've ever put out. Everyone should go watch it. It was written by Amanda Shurker. It's incredible. But yeah, I think there's a handful of episodes that either I've worked on or I've written myself that I think I'm glad that they are in the internet and will continue to be in the internet, like Philosophy of the House of Cards, or the Deadpool videos are older ones, or more recently, like Why Are Smart People So Dumb and The Myth of Genius, I thought were really great episodes. I'm just glad that I could contribute that to the pop culture zeitgeist.
Yeah, I agree. I think some of the best things you've ever done for the channel are in that realm of the Why Are Smart People Dumb and kind of no, but I think you've really done such a good job, and some of the stuff that you made I love so much are the things that take a kind of simple, or not even surface level, but like more like pop culture level question and dig into it in a really deep way. And I think that's great and embodies the best of what Wisecrack can do. So I know that in your absence, that's sort of the mark we will be looking at. I have another question, and Serby, jump in whenever, but what do you really think about Slaps and Chaps as a segment?
I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I listen to other podcasts, and there's a lot of chit chat at the beginning, and it's a joke. It's just like you got to listen to like 10 minutes of just unstructured conversation to get to the actual point. And I thought with Slaps and Chaps, it's contained. It's not going to get there. And so to that point, I like it, and I think it's a cool way for us to rep, what we're watching, what we're eating, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I this is more of an anxiety rather than a feeling. My anxiety is it's those 10 minutes of those dudes just talking for 10 minutes on every other podcast that I find so annoying.
Maybe I think it would be nice if we did it at the end of the episode.
Do it. You can. I'm not the boss anymore. You can do what you can.
Yeah. Well, listen. This is spoilers. These things are on the table, ladies and gentlemen. Things are on the table. Things might change. So I needed to get Alec's opinion on his way out the door. Serby, not to put you on the spot. Do you have any questions or thoughts for Alec as we have our exit interview with him?
Who do you think you are? How dare you?
What are you going to miss the most from your time here at Wisecrack?
Probably writing scripts, like, or just researching them, even that, but just to make a connection to like a weird thing in a TV show, and then, read a shit ton of books and put it in a script and spend too much time on it is probably one of the most fulfilling things about the job. And I think the second most is just like working with people who have really good ideas and sort of like helping them get the best version of that idea, like on paper and in video form. Those two things. That's a little bit of a cheat to say two.
Wow. I like that. So what's the thing you worked on at Wisecrack you're most embarrassed of? The video that might pop up that you're like, why did I do that? Why did we do that?
Yeah. I think in my mind, the one I'm thinking of is the thing that the fans hate the most, but do I actually hate it? I don't know. The thing that people hate the most is the Philosophy of Dark Souls video, but it was fine. I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, I don't know. To be honest, like, it's not a specific thing, but even looking at the older videos, like some of the first stuff I had written, and the things that I've probably done the best, like on all sides, we were just like worse at what we do at the time. And this isn't throwing shade, but like I was not as good of a writer. So like things are like unstructured and sentences are awkward. Jared at that time was not as good of a performer as he came to be. And so like I'll watch like the original Philosophy of Rick and Morty video and be like, ugh, like why is this here? Like why did I do it that way? And I think that's the only embarrassing thing, but I think that's just part of the artistic process to hate the things you've previously made that you're better at now.
That's totally fair. What would you say to people in the comments that complain about how they have to watch ads on YouTube?
Gotta pay the bills somehow, man. I don't know.
Listen,
they could become patrons if this were a solely patron only. If we were able to pay everyone's salaries, like that's the dream. But until then,
yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you are going to hike. How else are you planning to spend your time off?
Basically driving around, going to national parks, camping, and then staying with friends at various places, seeing family. That's basically it. It's going to be hanging out and hiking. There will be zero work. And if I end up working, even on a pet project, like I've been editing a Nick Cage compilation, I just can't do that. I need to do nothing, at least for 2 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are you guys giving up your place?
No, I don't think so.
Sorry, getting into depersonal real estate.
I know. I was.
It's rent stabilized. They're gonna pull me out when I'm dead.
Don't leave it. Yeah, don't leave. You can't leave that. What's a better city for vegans, Los Angeles or New York?
Ooh, I don't. It actually might be Los Angeles, only because there's the overlap of like not only do you have like the vegan for ethical reasons, you also just have like the woo woo health food, and there's vegan food for both of those markets. Where I think New York has less woo woo, but plenty of people who are vegan for ethical reasons. So I feel like LA is just way better at catering to like every restaurant has like 18 million gluten-free options, vegan options, carb-free, etc. Yeah.
That's great. Final formal question for me. How good does it feel the day that you quit your job on a scale from 0 to bathing in a bath full of MDMA?
Like the day you give your notice or the day, because I won't know the...
I mean, well, I guess there's two. There's one you don't know, but I mean, how good does it feel to like send the email or have the call where you're just like, Opperman out?
It's always, you feel like it's going to feel like taking a bath in MDMA, but it's always like disappointing in a weird way. Like the reaction's not like what you expected, or they're just like, okay, like whatever. Thanks for working.
Because you want them to cry and like beg you to stay.
No, but yes. Yeah, like
Well, it's like in a breakup. If I was like breaking up with someone and you like work up to it, you don't want them to be like, you know what? I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, good luck in the future. It's been great dating you. Let me know if you need anything. That's not cathartic. You want them to be like, why?
That's the one thing I learned is that, like, companies will just keep on chugging. Yeah. It doesn't matter how important that you think you are. They'll just gonna keep moving forward. But we'll miss you though. And I was sad when you told me. I wanted to be like, no, don't go, stay here.
But you didn't, Serby, and you stole that catharsis. No, I'm kidding.
Wow. Well, two things. Let's do this before we go. First, and let's all do this. Leaving a job and moving on is a lot like leaving any relationship. So let's all give her a quick breakup advice. Serby, if a listener has to break up with someone soon, how should they do it? What's the best way to break up with someone?
Oh my God, please don't ask me this. I'm still trying to get over the breakup of last year. If you have to break up with someone, just be kind, and show empathy, and just be as mature as possible. Don't say like negative things. Yeah. It's just best to be an adult and say, this isn't working out. Let's try to be friends. If not, then let's wish each other well and move on.
Yeah. Alec, that's really great, Serby. That's truly good advice. Alec, how should people break up?
Yeah. Keep it calm. You might want to give a laundry list of everything wrong with the other person, but then that person will remember those things. And if they run into you 10 years from now, they'll like hold it in front of your face somehow. Hold it in front of your face?
Yeah.
What's the whatever? You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Throw it in your face. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I would say, don't show up with the person you've been dating behind their back at the Applebee's you're meeting them at to break up with them.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds oddly specific.
Yeah, but I think long term, think about like break up with someone in such a way that when you run into them in 10 years, they'll be like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Like, hope things are good. Let's hang out. Like, I still think of you sometimes. Like, when I'm with my husband, like, I say your name, like that type of thing. So, but I think the kindness, the empathy, the niceness, all that stuff is good. The last thing I want to do is we have a bunch more emails telling us what we are in a category of something. Sadly, Alec's not going to get to experience all of these. I do want to say that we got an email recently that lets us know which female rappers we are.
Okay.
I'll quickly say Serby and mine without the descriptions, and maybe we can read this on the next full episode. Serby gets to be Nicki Minaj, which is great.
Okay.
I get to be Cardi B. Very excited about that, especially
I want to
because
be Cardi B.
The person gave the example of Cardi and Bernie together, so I was like, they get it. Alec is Doja Cat. Because you once said you used to be a bit of a troll on the internet when you were younger, and that's very much Doja Cat. Also seems like someone who would sit back and chill with, and having only heard both of your voices first, was surprised to learn that both of you look like LOL. But I keep thinking back to the time Burns said you would be Miranda Cynthia Nixon from Sex and the City, and I don't know if Doja matches that vibe. So I wanted you to have that on your way out the door. The last listener comparing you to a thing. You get to be Doja Cat because you're a troll and you look different than how you sound.
I haven't read enough about Doja Cat to know how afraid of this comparison I should be. I know there's like some stuff in the background about like her saying some shit that I probably don't think is cool. I will say, without full knowledge of that, "Bitch I'm a Cow" is an incredible song.
Yeah.
I played it for some friends like 2 weeks ago.
This is a good song. And to be fair, this listener also said, my other thought was one of the older rappers like Missy Elliott, who's great, or smaller, lesser known rapper Lil Sims. Lil Sims rules.
I don't know Lil Sims, but I'll take
British
that.
rapper. She rips real hard. Everyone should listen to Lil Sims. But I wanted to leave you with that. I guess we'll give the final word to you, Alec. What is, this podcast has been for you an adventure into the cultural zeitgeist. We have looked at surface level and pop cultural things and tried to find some meaning in them, to understand something about society, but ultimately to understand something about ourselves. So I don't know, what's a piece of advice or a piece of pop culture you think would be important to people? Leave everyone with something before you come back, because
God,
they say
that's
in
so
that
much
movie,
pressure.
Because we're going to see you down the road. Leave us with something.
I don't know, man. Read books. They're great.
Read books. They're great. Couldn't say it better than that.
That's my life
Alec,
advice.
Yeah. Thank you again. We're going to miss the shit out of you, and we're excited for you to come back soon. And in the meantime, we're going to have some fun new friends on and see how that goes. Their beards aren't going to be as good as yours, but, we'll try to have fun with it.
Maybe they can take some biotin or something, really beef it up.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. And nothing else to say, but we'll see you down the road, buddy.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Well, there you have that, folks. And our main takeaway from all of that, the most important thing you just heard there is, if you can, quit your job, go hiking, go scuba diving, do something else for those of us who can't quit our jobs. So shout to that. So we got to get into it. We only have a little bit of time left for going long, but we appreciate you for sticking with us. It's mailbag time, friends. So we love to hear from you. We love to talk to you. You already know this, but you can write us at culturebinge@wisecrack.co. That's culturebinge@wisecrack.co. And you can call us at 213-534-8807. That is 213-534-8807. And, per Helen's topic, do an audio musical and send it to us and we'll play it. That would be awesome. Now, we got a couple longer emails real quick, and I might condense some stuff here, but they're both really great. This is from Joe, and this is related to our last episode. Joe says this: first of all, Serby's unabashed comments on the plight of the white man really tickled me, and I couldn't help but laugh. I believe she was correct in calling out the links we go to protect the feelings or comfort of white people as a driving force behind the legislator being pushed through on the topic. I am biracial and have 3 adultish siblings, and when you get us all together in a room, we can definitely dive into some deep topics such as race, systematic racism, and just trying to navigate spaces as persons of color, multiracial people. My mom, however, is often trying to change the subject from those things to something more lighthearted, and when asked why, she always says that that it makes her uncomfortable, or she doesn't have anything to say on the topic. Now, to be clear, this person says they love their mom many times, so I'm going to skip the part where they talk about how much they love their mom. Joe loves his mom. Joe's mom, if you're listening, lots of love. But Joe then says, we can't begin the process of fixing things unless we properly identify sources and educate people on them. Sure, kids might be too young to grasp it fully, but I don't think planting those seeds is necessarily a bad thing. Quite the opposite, really. Having teachers scared of losing their jobs just because of saying something that could be constructed as critical race theory is definitely not the answer. It's just censorship. Love you guys and keep the amazing content coming, Joe. And Joe also says he appreciated the advice about how to comfort a friend whose family member had died recently. So that was on the critical race theory topic we talked about last time. Serby, any comments on this person who wrote an email talking about the fact that you're both smart and funny?
Oh, that was so lovely. I really like this email. I think so. My thought when I read this email is it possible that his mom is uncomfortable with the topic because I believe his mom is white, and I wonder if maybe it's possible maybe she feels guilty or she feels uncomfortable talking about it because she can't identify with the situations that her children go through. So maybe that's why she's trying to move the topic along, not because she doesn't empathize, but because maybe there's like a deep rooted discomfort there. Because it sounds like his mom's lovely.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that I could think of. That's the only reason why sometimes I try to move topics along sometimes, because I feel uncomfortable for one reason or another. And I feel like I'm the odd woman out who can't offer anything, that it might feel empty if I were to share an opinion about something.
Yeah. I'm going to keep my mouth shut as just some dumb white dude. But yes,
Thank you.
that sounds good. And I agree with Joe's point that, like, we got to have hard conversations to make stuff better. Quickly going to another email, just we got to wrap up soon. Our friend Megan Roach wrote an email, and just shouts to Megan in general. She writes really good, thoughtful emails. And often we just don't get into on the show because they're like really interesting essays. But Megan, and this is also on the critical race theory topic, and I'll hit a few of the points she makes here. But she says, I think the topic that has made most people wary of critical race theory is discussions around intent. Critical race theory seems to be very consequentialist in making a moral value judgment. It does not matter if intent is present because the systematic structures are designed to self-perpetuate. Slavoj Žižek's book Violence did a really great analysis of this. The argument is that if the result's consequences are functionally indistinguishable between well-intentioned and non-racist and malintended deliberately racist people, then it doesn't matter because the harm caused is the same. Skipping ahead to the end of her email, she says, because point blank, I don't want people to not be racist or sexist because they're afraid of being called a bad person. I want people in society that I occupy to be politically self-actualized and aware of their unique positionality of intersectional power and use that self-awareness to navigate their lives and to make informed choices in their decision-making. So to kind of sum up a very interesting long email, Megan saying here that the worry about critical race theory shouldn't be people act a type of way because we're afraid of being bad or afraid of being canceled. This kind of goes with Joe's email. People should be thinking through these things in terms of intent. And we need a society where people are anti-racist and anti-sexist, not because they don't want people to not like them, because they actively want to be anti-racist and anti-sexist. So I assume no one's going to fight back on that in this gang.
Man.
I
Nothing
really
to
like
fight on
all
that.
of Megan's emails. Every time I see one of those in my inbox, I'm like, ooh, let's go.
Very thoughtful, and we appreciate it. And this is true for Megan and true for a lot of our friends. Just know if we're ever not reading your emails on air, sometimes it's because they're really good and long, and we just don't have time to get into that. But we read all of the emails, we listen to all the voicemails. You all are the best, and we love you. And just so you know, in light of the last segment that we had with Alec, we're still here. We're going to have some awesome new friends on. We're going to bring some cool voices onto the show. People like Helen, maybe not as good and smart as Helen, but they'll try their best. But know that we're still going to be bringing heat for y'all. And once again, hit us up at culturebinge@wisecrack.co. Call us at 213-534-8807. Now, before we finish, Helen, until you are back on this podcast, where can people find you in the meantime? Digitally, please don't give them your address or phone number.
Yeah, for sure. Not going to give that out. You can find me on Instagram, actually. I'm a little bit more active there than on Twitter, unless I'm raging about something, I guess. Just find me at Flourish, which is my last name. So FLOERSH.
Amazing. Serby, people probably know this if they're Culture Binge heads, but where can people find you on the generationally unified internet?
Twitter, Suri Patel 22.
Awesome. As always, I am Michael O. Burns on Twitter, Instagram, and other things. Not other things, just those two. So thanks again to Helen Flourish for being here. Really appreciated it, and we hope you'll come back sometime.
Yes,
So
please
We'll
do.
see. Just kidding.
yeah,
Thank you.
Thank
It was
you to everyone for
awesome.
being
So
here.
fun.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll have another fun friend there with us. So have a great couple weeks in the meantime. This has been Culture Binge. Bye.